morning. Welcome everyone to the shir. We're very excited. Oren is joining us. Let's do the mimer inside. We started talking yesterday about the idea of food. The theme this week is going to be about the Ma'aras HaMachpelah, the double cave. And the double cave Kabbalistically hints to the double letter. So yesterday we had a whole long Kabbalistic introduction that God's name is Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, and there's different ways of filling the letters. There's the letters and there's the filling of the letters. For example, the letter Aleph has a numerical value of 1, but the filling is 111. Aleph is the Luf. The Luf is another 110. Lamed is 30 and Fei is 80. Not messing with you guys. I'm surrounded over here with a bunch of mathematicians. So that's the filling of the letter. Kabbalah tells us that the filling of the letter also has a lot of significance, and there's different ways of filling the letters. So the name of God, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, has different ways of filling the letters, and that's why the name of God, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, also has 4 ways of filling it. One is Shem Ayin Beis, 72, 52, 45, and 63. Sorry, I didn't say it in the right order. 72, 63, 52, and 45. Right? Remember, we spoke about it yesterday. I don't want to repeat the whole thing. And because this week we're talking about the double cave, so we're going to talk about the double letter. And double letter is brought up, it's called the Lechem Apanim. Every Shabbos, they would take out the old bread from last week and put a new bread, and the Kohanim would eat it. This is connected to the bread that we eat on Shabbos. And one of the stanzas in the poem of the Holy Arizal about Shabbos, about the meal of Shabbos morning, in the poem Sadar L'Sudasa, is Yegala Lan PII, may you reveal to us the secret. The tam is the taste, the secret, right? Not the secret, I'm sorry, the taste, the reason. The word in Hebrew, tam, is also reason and also taste. Who knows what is the meaning of the word matam in Arabic? A restaurant, mat'am, a place of eating tasty stuff. Yeah, tam, taste, and the taste of something intellectual is the reason of that thing. So we're asking God, Yegala Lan PII, may you reveal to us the reason, the Bisreiser Nahame of the 12 breads, the Inun, that they are, the 12 breads, are Os Bishmei. It's a letter in your name, Kfila Uklisha, the double name and the the double letter, Kfila, Kaful, Kfila is like Kaful, Uklisha, and weak, which basically hints to the letter Hey. So first of all, because Hey is written Hey, Hey, also the letter Hey is double in God's name. There's Yud Kei Vav Kei, there's 2 Heys. Yeah, and also Klisha means a weak one, a weak letter, a letter that is not very strong. Hey is considered to be the weakest letter. Hey is in a lot of cases silent, right, when it's the end of the word. And Hey is the only letter that you're not touching anything in your mouth when you pronounce it. Any other letter, you either have to touch the palate, the teeth, the tongue, the lips, and so on and so forth. So this leads us to a whole conversation about food. We started talking yesterday about the idea that food in Kabbalah doesn't only refer to food, it refers to a lot of other things as well. We even said in the Torah, not only in Kabbalah, in the Torah, when Paro says that you're going to tells Joseph you're going to be the viceroy of the whole Egypt, he says you're going to control everything besides the food. He says he became he took control of the whole Egypt besides the food that Paro eats. So Rashi over there says that it means besides of his wife. So the relationship to food is a very strong one in our general psyche. And as I said yesterday, that I want to start today with a general discussion between 2 schools of thought within the Jewish world of service of God. Everybody understands that you can't really grow if you don't work on self-control, right? If you don't work on self-control, you're basically living. Yeah.
We have a comment called the self-regulating mechanism.
Very good. Self-regulating. Why is it important? Why is self-regulating the first step in every? This Shabbos I was with some other rabbi that he grew up in Chabad, so he knows much more than me. But when it comes to things outside of Chabad, so he automatically has a tiny bit less knowledge than me because I grew up outside of Chabad and he didn't. So he asked me, outside of Chabad, do they also talk about self-regulation? In Chabad it's called iskafia, itkafia. Yeah, in Ashkenaz it's iskafia, but the word is itkafia. The meaning of the word itkafia is subjugation. In other words, do something to not experience. What's the word I'm looking for? To.
What are you trying to describe?
Not to experience.
Internalize?
No. To practice. Yeah.
Process?
No, practice.
Sorry. I thought you were.
Sounded like a fancy word.
No. I didn't realize you concluded on that. I didn't realize that was your answer.
No problem. I was looking for a better word, but for lack of a better word, we have to. Everyone has to do something to practice, to implement some self-control. Without that, so that's a concept in Chabad. In Chabad, to the extent that in Kfar Chabad there was a big mashpia. His name was Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman, and Reb Shlomo Chaim Kesselman spoke to the Bochrim a lot about self-control. And he used to talk to them a lot about watching what you eat, eating mindfully, eating slowly, not eating what you want, things like that. So to the extent he became so, it was such a theme by him that if he would bring home guys to eat in his house, he would leave the room in order for them to feel comfortable to eat. So this by itself, parenthetically speaking, this is the depth of a chassid. On one hand, he is teaching them how to become closer to God and work on themselves, but he doesn't want to be imposing because other Jews' physicality is your spirituality. So he wants them to feel comfortable eating. Now what they're going to do, he's going to talk about it in the Farbrengen, and afterwards he's going to talk about the idea of controlling yourself when you eat. But when he's over here, in order to do a mitzvah of feeding Jews, he wanted them to feel completely comfortable, he would leave the room. That's parenthetically speaking. But so that guy that was with him Shabbos, the big rabbi that grew up in Chabad, he asks me if outside of Chabad they also talk about the concept of iskafia. Controlling yourself. Not falling for the ice cream. So, the following was my answer to him. It's not because of my answer. Just because he asked me this question, and Hashgacha Prot is before this week when we're going to talk about food. We spoke yesterday about a spiritual group. I don't know if they still exist, but over here in Israel there was like a spiritual Breslov group. That over there, like one of the rules was, you join the group, no burekas. No burekas. Like they're a group of Israelis. What's the best food? Burekas, and they decided it's also very not healthy. No burekas. It's like burekas has margarine. It's like
yeah, I myself very like I don't like when I feel after eating burekas.
Right, exactly. It tastes very good, but afterwards you feel it's not a great feeling after eating the burekas. So they waged war against the burekas, and they were. It was a very interesting group. Not that I ever joined the group, but I loved reading their articles because they were very they had good writers. It was very eloquent. It was very nice. I learned a lot from them. Let's put it this way. But this guy is asking me, is the concept of Iskafia only in Chabad or not? And I told him, listen, I think that it's even more than in Chabad. Why? Because in Chabad, there's also the concept of learning Chassidus. In Chabad, there's also the concept of davening, meditating. In other places, like the places where I grew up, where there's no concept of Chassidus, which the idea of Chassidus is to understand godliness, things like that, the main avoida is the iskafia. So, for example, I told him when I grew up, I learned in Vishnitz. So in Vishnitz, that was the main thing they spoke about. To the extent that I remember asking once the Mashgiach in Yeshiva, if the most important thing is the eating with iskafia. Again, iskafia is self-control, or how did Rabbi Kaufman call it? Self-regulating mechanism. Why don't we sit in the lunchroom more hours in the day? That was a question that I asked, and it wasn't coming from a cynic place. So I just want to tell you how we used to do it. We because it wasn't Chabad, so there's no emphasis on the, like, so to say, on the positivity of Chassidus. So they believe that the main thing is crushing your body in order to let your soul shine.
What do you mean by crushing your body?
Oh, making sure that your body is not in control. Working, we used to have guys that came to yeshiva, they were big and husky, and leave skinny. Why?
Because we don't feed them.
No. We were fed. We were fed.
So they learn
but
self-control.
You have to listen. It's also one of the differences between Chabad and outside of Chabad, is that outside of Chabad things are like sometimes more external. So there were rules how to eat. So the rules were, rule number one: when you go to the tray to take a piece of chicken, don't take the one that you really want to take. You look around and you take the second to the best or the third to the best. Which one you want to take the other one. Then you sit down. The Rebbe of that Chassidus, he passed away already, may have illuminated Gan Eden, Alichtigen Gan Eden. So he used to constantly tell us, you have to eat slowly. Those of you that know that in the beginning you're hungry, but after 20 minutes the body is, that's why it's so hard to eat Shabbos meals, the second course.
Your eyes are bigger than your stomach.
Exactly. So after 20 minutes, something, a message comes to your brain, you're satiated already. So if you eat slow, so he used to tell us you have to eat slow. Then there was a concept of putting down the fork or the spoon between bites. Then this was a common thing. This looked the weirdest, but everybody was meant to do it. Is you take the spoon, you bring it close to your mouth. If you feel that you really want to eat it, you bring it, put it down, and then pick it back up.
Whoa.
That and then another thing that you might come and say, if you're coming from a house with proper etiquette, you'll say that that's regular etiquette. It was like very, very strict, not to bend down to the food. You bring the food close to you, to the extent that Rebbe, when he ate soup, for example, he had another small plate. Spoon, a small plate, not to bend down to the food. Again, it might sound very external, and it is very external. Chabad is like very against externality. Other places are not so against externality. But there was a very strong emphasis on iskafia, controlling your food, controlling your eating. And the belief was that when you control your food is a very, very deep thing in a person's psyche. That's the way we get our energy. And when you control your intake of food, when you do iskafia connected to food, it will help you in all the other aspects of life too. And people that know say that it's very easy to get to know a person's personality from the way they eat. from the way you eat, you could see how they act also in other things. How hungry they are. How, like I said, I know people that they'll never start eating before everything is on the table. They want the plate, the fork, the knife, the napkins, the cup, the bottle of drink or water. You know people like that? They won't start with everything. They want organized. And there are people that are like, when they walk into the kitchen to take with their plate, they're already biting into some food like on the way. Like I was saying, Yiddish, there's an expression, bis de kretschmer, right? Like we need some l'chaim until we get to the inn. Right? That's the expression. Bis de kretschmer darf man euch yeah? Kretschmer is the inn. So what is the idea I was trying to tell him? My idea I was trying to tell him is that in Chabad, the expression in Hayoim Yoim is that Iskafia is only an introduction to Avodah. It's not Avodah itself. It's not service of God by yourself. If we want to use a nice example for that is, let's say you have a barn, and the barn is a stinky barn, and you get a task to make this stinky barn into a palace. The king is coming. You have a month now to make this barn into a palace, which is basically our task. What are we meant to do? We are meant to take this barn. Yeah, it stinks. It's disgusting. We have all different physical desires and stupid thoughts. We're busy the whole day running after physical desires and jealousy and looking for honor and attention. What do I need to do in order to make this barn a palace? So everybody will say over here, and this is basically the Chabad perspective, you have to clean it out. Obviously, you have to do a skafia. You have to make sure that your body is not in control of you. You're in control of your body. Body doesn't only mean the physical body; it means like all our physical desires and so on and so forth. And then you have to bring in a nice chandelier, you have to put on nice wallpaper, paint, so on and so forth. How do we put in the nice chandelier? By learning Chassidus. How do we put in the nice wallpaper? By davening. In other words, it's not enough just to clean out the garbage. Where I grew up, the main avodah was to clean out the garbage, because the belief was more that your work is serving Hashem with your soul, and as long as if there's no garbage, the soul will automatically shine, either by being connected to a tzaddik, or so on and so forth. In Chabad, it says the opposite. And this was my answer to this guy, that an introduction to service of God. Service of God by itself is connecting to God. But obviously, you can't connect to God if you are connected to garbage, to lowliness. So he was quite, I don't want to say taken aback, but he was quite he didn't expect that answer, because he thought that Iskafia is a Chabad concept. When I told him in Chabad the Iskafia is only a preliminary, where other places this is the only thing they have. That's why you'll see they're really very strict the way they walk in the street, not to look. It's all different types of self-control. And in Chabad, there's also a concept when you walk in the street, try to say Mishnayos by heart, try to say Tanya by heart. Like this, you're more focused on something else. Now you could listen to a class, right? Otherwise, just walk around in the street, checking out stuff, right? Walking around, like some of us are more curious than others. Right? Yeah, so after I saw that I shocked him a tiny bit, I thought that I'll go one step further. And I don't know if he appreciated this part of the answer. I told him, not only in Judaism, nice word, I adopted it. When you need self-regulation, they will always talk to you about abstaining from something. we mentioned yesterday already, even in 12 steps. One of the things, the 12 steps, which is like the most famous way of dealing with it's like some type of group therapy dealing with addictions. They will tell you have to have at least one thing that you're refraining from.
An acquaintance of mine went to India, whatever, I don't know which it was, and went to like a monastery, like a monk. They would wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, eat breakfast, rice, whatever, and then meditate for the rest of the day, and they were not allowed to speak at all. So it was one of the most horrible experiences he had in his life. It was like for 1 month, not speaking at all. That's what they gave up. They gave up speech.
We'll talk about it in a second, but I'm talking now that's already like very spiritual. I'm talking even AA is not considered to be, it has spirituality to it, anyone that knows how it works. But even if it's not completely spiritual, they understand that a person that is in cruise control, a person that has no say whatsoever how to refrain from if they don't have self-control, they have no autopilot. Exactly. That's like being an autopilot. I'm sure you heard about the marshmallow test.
The what?
The marshmallow test. I
No,
don't remember.
with the kids?
Yeah, with the kids.
Yeah.
So which university was that? They did it became very famous. It's called the marshmallow test. You heard about the marshmallow test? Only David and myself.
You can have one or you wait and get
Exactly. So they took a group of kids and they gave them very like warm, smelly marshmallows and said you could sit over here. Like you could have your marshmallow if you want, but if you wait for 5 minutes, you'll get 2. And you see a video how they're like fighting their instincts. Some of them give up, some of them don't.
Oh, wow.
And but what did they find? Exactly. Self-control is why is self-control so important? Right? Just like there's a simple physical example. You want to get from Yerushalayim to Tel Aviv, and every time you see a nice car, so you hop on the way back, you'll never get anywhere. So does that mean that I have to be like complete control freak? Not necessarily. Siddim also didn't say like I have to do a scafi today. But even in the AA, what they say, so have one thing that you're afraid. One thing that you're afraid from, then you can change it, and it's even better to change it. Like we said yesterday, if you don't change it, so you get used to okay, I don't have ice cream, so you don't want it anymore. So after a month, change it from ice cream to sushi.
Sushi's healthy though.
Doesn't matter if it's healthy or not. That's the point.
It can be.
Why healthy?
It depends, like
Rice. And
rice,
and
fish,
they have
cucumber.
overall, it's pretty healthy.
not just rice.
It's
They put it-
vinegar.
Vinegar that
Rice,
sticks it
rice,
together?
rice,
Yeah.
rice vinegar,
It's bad.
Okay, I don't know.
Depends.
I don't know, guys, about health or
There
most
were
of
things.
it's delicious. That's what I can tell you.
Japanese are very skinny.
But yeah, the Eastern Asian people actually are like have like the least health problems. She did that in America.
And if it's over a size, I get a huge fine from the.
Okay, that's new. Okay, I didn't know about that. But-
more things.
But going back to our conversation about iskafia, constantly. Let me just turn off the Wi-Fi. Some Chassidim would say that only talking about iskafia and food is like taxing the poor people. A king is sitting, and thinking how like, we need to pay for this war, we need to pay for this, we need to pay for that, and he thinks so. What should we do? So there's an advisor over there that says like let's tax the poor people. So the other advisor tells it, it's like the poor people don't have anything. Like instead of taxing the poor people, try to tax the wealthy people. So Chassidim said that this is a good example for iskafia, that talking only about iskafia, food, is like taxing the poor people, because food is one of our lower desires. How about doing iskafia on our thoughts? You have a depressive thought. The push away that thought. You have a lustful thought, you push away that thought. Or speech. You have a really good joke to say, a really good joke that's like going to be like under the belt. It's like going to lay it in. It's like I make fun of someone that's like, then try to hold that back. Oh my God, that's so hard. I have such a good comeback. So Chassidim would say, not to focus only on the food, but on the other hand, a lot of Chassidim would say that food is not only the food. Food is a very deep psychological thing. When you learn how to control your food, everything else, including sexual desires, are going to be so much more in check. Because food is not only food. Food, that's why there's a concept of emotional eating. Or the example that I gave yesterday, people opening their refrigerator every 5-10 minutes looking for food, even though they know clearly that there was no genie that came and put it in food within the last 5 minutes. We're looking for something. Food is a very good escape mechanism. I don't understand exactly why. I once read, I never really connected to it. It says that you eat food and the food is just very accepting of you. I never really understood, but obviously it's not something you meant to understand. It's something you meant to feel. But that's what that group that I discussed before, I don't even remember the name of that group. They said that we run to food because food just lets us eat it without judgment, with it's just giving. It doesn't. Again, I don't want to talk about something I don't really understand, but so there were two schools of thought. I would say most spiritual teachers, more spiritual leaders, believed that you should have at least some handle on your food intake, or how you eat, or eating mindfully, eating for the sake of satiation, not eating for just the enjoyment of the food. That will also automatically cause you to eat healthier, less junk, because you're thinking about
Intentionality.
what?
There's intentionality to that.
Exactly, intentionality to it. So if the intention, well, why am I eating? I'm eating for sustenance. So I'm going to try to eat good food, nutritious food. If I am just eating for the sake of enjoyment, usually the food that looks better, tastes better, is usually less healthy. That's the way it works. Things that are what? You agree.
Yes.
So, on the other hand, I just want to share that with you. And on the other hand, there were other schools of thought that they really believed that it's all about fighting the sexual drive. And therefore, their belief was, and there's like a big Chassidus, I don't want to give a name, like especially we're on YouTube, I don't want them to come hunt me down. There's a big Chassidus over here in Israel that is very, very all about fighting sexuality, and according to most opinions, even too extreme. Some people even say that it's not even such a Jewish concept. They're very, very into abstinence and asceticism. What?
Well, they obviously get married, right?
Right. They get married, but it's
They're-
only in order to have kids.
Yeah.
Even though according to Kabbalah, it's also the deepest way of connection. It's not only, but so they took it a bit extreme, according to who am I to say, but they took it so extreme that over there they don't talk about iskafia in food. In fact, that specific Hasidic group believes in just eat as much as you want. Just you could indulge in food as long as you refrain from sexuality. That was their approach. I just want to point out that in Chabad believe the other way. It's not about finding a substitute it's about being mindful. So it's not, again, because that other place comes from a more black and white perspective. That is like completely prohibited, and this is something permitted, so we're going to indulge over here, and that in Chassidus Chabad is nothing. It's not prohibited. And food is also not prohibited. The question is not if you eat or you don't eat. The question is, do you do it mindfully or not? And this is something so important. And therefore, Chabad Chassidus believed that no, food, it's not about the food. It's about the mindfulness. And therefore, food is a great opportunity when you learn to be mindful. And food is something that we do on a daily basis. And food is something that is very deeply wedged in our deep psyche. If you'll be mindful in your food, you'll also be mindful in everything else. And this is a very, very important point. I know it's easier for people sometimes to think in black and white. But depth requires that we don't think in black and white. Depth requires that we think more in what's the opposite of black and white?
Technical.
Nuance, a bit more nuanced. To the extent, for example, if we're going to use the example of the 12 steps, I don't know if you're aware. Second, this, like, I don't know why they gave me the class reading.
Hello.
I have no problem with it, but on the video, it's like the noises.
Yeah.
So for example, one of the very, again, I don't know how much you know about the 12 steps, and I by myself, I'm not such a big, I don't have that much knowledge of the 12 steps. The rule is always never teach something to people, to an audience that know better than you about it.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know, it doesn't matter. If no one knows, if you know better than other people, no one will be able to refute you. But so if you know better than me on this topic, I'll be happy to be corrected. But one of the things in the 12 steps started with AA, Alcoholic Anonymous. And Alcoholic Anonymous, what's so special about the 12 steps is that it's not like some psychologist sitting in the ivory tower, like in academia, coming up with ideas. It was people that decided that they want to change their lives. On the other hand, so that's why I do have a lot of respect to that. It's like people really deciding to make a change in their lives. But on the other hand, it's not very scientific, to the extent that sometimes they even say things that are completely wrong scientifically. But they're doing it for a certain, they're doing it because they want to change in their lives. So one of those things that I think that is quite ridiculous, again, if someone from AA listens to this, I'll be happy to stand corrected. They came up with this whole idea that alcoholic is like a physical thing. It's a physical thing. You're allergic to alcohol, to the extent that they believe that you could actually see an alcoholic's liver. And that's why, what was their conclusion? That's why you could never have wine again in your life. That's one of their things. One day at a time, right? But
isn't it because of withdrawals?
Okay, but also why does the alcoholic have withdrawals and the other person doesn't have withdrawals? So they had to come up with a certain, like even in their video that they made about the AA, it's like one of the scenes is there's a person goes to the doctor and he touches his liver and the person says, "Ow!" Says, "Oh, you have an allergy to alcohol." That's why, if you're an alcoholic, you have to completely abstain from alcohol for the rest of your life, because if you have one cup, you will deteriorate and have another one, and you'll become an alcoholic again. Again, I completely understand where that comes from, and I hope I'm not upsetting any AA members that I'm making it so simple. Most probably there's so much more depth to it, and I don't know enough about it. But again, from my simple perspective, looking from the outside, It makes a lot of sense. You come up with some reason, you tell the person, okay, never again. So the person doesn't have to be in that war again. And I know it's very hard. In the beginning, there's major withdrawals, but then in your head, you tell yourself, okay, Mayor, no alcohol ever. No wine, no, it's over, no more. You're not dealing with the issue. It makes it more simple. So far, so good. Understand what I'm trying to say? But anyone that knows that 12 step was so successful that it started to go slowly into other areas. I don't know what was the second area they got into. What was the second? Anyone knows? But from AA that became NA. NA is for people, drugs, Narcotics Anonymous. Then there was, what else?
Sex,
Yeah.
sex addiction.
No, but I want to go. No, I don't want to go to SA yet. But first, I want to go to things that are like things that you're able to say, okay, no more narcotics for you. You're never taking even one smoke again. Nothing. Complete abstinence. But what happened even later was they started to get into things that you can't say complete abstinence. Let's say they even have OA, Overeaters Anonymous. Overeaters Anonymous is, you can't say, okay, no food for you ever, or even SA. What do you mean? It's a part of life. So suddenly they had to face a whole new level of nuance. It's not about the food. It's about the you and your relationship to the food. So really, again, you can't fight with them. They're very strict. They have the blue book. It's like their Bible. They don't budge from it. There's like exact details. You're not allowed to charge. What like they're very good, like keeping to their customs for over 100 years. But I come and ask them, and again, I'm not trying to diss them or something. I'm just trying to explain Chassidus with this idea. I'm coming and asking them like this. If when it comes to SA or it comes to OA, you understand that the problem is not the food, you understand it's the relationship of the person for the food, so why is it when it comes to AA, you don't say the same? You have to, the problem is not the alcohol. You can have a cup of wine. Make kiddush on a cup of wine. The Eibster told us to make to make kiddush on a cup of wine. I once read in in a book. It said the reason why the Eibster wanted us to make a kiddush on a cup of wine is like this: the middle of the Suda Shabbos, the middle of the Shabbos meal. We should stand up and dance. The second you understand that it's not the thing, it's you. It's not black and white anymore. It's much more nuanced. It's your relationship to the thing. So you don't have to be complete. It's not about abstinence. That's why Chassidus doesn't like the idea of making iskafia the most important point. That's not the point. Iskafia is just the introduction. Iskafia is in order to tell yourself, oh, you're not in cruise control. You are on top of the situation. You're mindful. Now, once you're mindful, have the food. Eat, drink, get married, have a good job, spend time with your kids. We're not about abstinence. It's about being a mindful person. And when you're mindful, you can take everything that you do in life and do it with the intention of becoming closer to God, of bringing down godliness into the world, into your family, into your home, into your bedroom, into your kitchen. But that's the question. The question is if you're just like a leaf flying in the wind, or you're a tree with roots. When do we get the roots? When do we cultivate the tree? When do we do that? When we learn. When we daven, I invest in myself. I become a strong-rooted tree. And then that tree, there's winds out there, very good, but it's a sturdy tree. I do Torah, I do mitzvahs. Whatever I do it fully. I'm completely there. I'm able to get places. And slowly, we get more, we get more connected to, we basically have the ability to make the world a better place, make ourselves a better place. We become more of our barn becomes more of a palace. And ultimately, we make the world a place conducive for the coming of Mashiach. But it's all about never blame the food, never blame the alcohol, never blame the physical desires. It's all in here. If you learn how to be focused, if you invest in learning, and mainly not only learning, thinking. Chassidim believed that after learning, trying to think, meditate, trying to understand, trying to connect to the idea, you become Chassidim always talk about not blaming anyone. It's not about not blaming anyone. Don't blame the world. It's not your phone. Yeah, the phones nowadays is the biggest addiction. Talking to myself too. It's not the phone, it's not YouTube. It's the you. See, very healthy, balanced people are not so distracted by the phone. Does it mean that I have to have the most distracting phone in the world? No. No. But it's not the phone. It's the you that is doing the doom scrolling. Yeah, it's called doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Shabbos is so good for that.
Oh,
It really regulates that.
exactly. Shabbos is so good for that. But we need to have like small Shabbos every day too.
I've noticed that
Not bringing the phone to class. That's a big one. I think research has it that people that don't bring their phones to class, even if it's turned off, but it's not in the class, it's very hard not to because you use it to look up things. But now we're talking about abstinence. That's not the point. Obviously, it could help. It's good. It's good in order to tell our minds that we could live without it. But the point is mindfulness, consciousness, being cognizant. What's going on in here? Am I focused or am I just a leaf in the wind?
just going with the flow.
Just going with the flow. How does it say in Slonim? There is an expression that says that a young lad that is not well rested is like a loose horse, runs around. That they were very strict on being like watching yourself and your thoughts. So it's like make sure you're well rested. If you're not well rested, you go out in the street, like everything distracts you. You check everything out. It's like so this, again, this is like a more of a practical advice. Make sure that you have your 8 hours or 6 hours, how much you need. But that's not so much the point. I wasn't trying to push over here for a lot of hours of sleep, which is very healthy and very important. But again, they're going from a practical perspective. They can't be focused if you're not well rested. But the main point is to be a focused, mindful person. Whatever you do to do with mindfulness, and when you do things with mindfulness, then it has a real impact. It gets you places. You see progress. And will ultimately win the final end goal of our progress, which is bringing Mashiach speedily in our days, bringing our own personal redemption, and through that, redemption of the whole world. Have a beautiful day, everyone, and a great davening.
Shkech Manayach. Whoa.
I have a question not related